She seems
Really
like
glad to be back on.
yeah.
I'm excited to talk about women's boxing today.
It seems like it's been a while, between me on the road and some things going on. We finally got you back. What's going on in the world of women's boxing?
Well, I think the big news, at least from the perspective of a lot of female boxers that I know, is the fact that New York State has approved 3-minute rounds for women's boxing for sanctioned professional fights.
Wow. Hey, wait, what's the reason behind it? Oh, this is great. Because every female that I've ever talked to, female boxer, have always said that they would like to fight 3-minute rounds. Is this going to be the norm? Is this a special case? Well, tell me.
Well, it's not a special case at all. Basically, the fight is going to be held on Friday night at Brooklyn's storied Masonic Temple. Between two, what we would call club boxers. They don't have big records, but they're scrappy fighters. One is Susan Reno. Her record is 1-3-2, but it absolutely belies a very tough competitor, and she's fighting Paula La Loba Ortiz, who comes into the fight 0-5-1. Again, these are, if you're just looking at the record, you're not getting the full story of who these women are and how hard they fight. When it comes to Sue Reno, she was out in San Diego last year, and she fought Jolene Blackshear, who's one of the true leaders in women's boxing for a long time. And this is in the sort of they're like at the 105 pound, 106 pounds. They're really tiny women, but quite powerful. And Sue Reno fought another local New York area fighter a couple of years ago, Vanessa Greco, and they had a very, very competitive fight. And Melvina Latham, who's the New York State Boxing Commissioner, was at the fight. And she's like, gosh, you guys were great. We should have these fights at 3-minute rounds. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. That's what we need to do. How do we get this done? Well, Sue Reno hadn't really fought in New York in 2014, so it kind of lost some momentum. But when she was coming back and she knew she would be fighting in New York this year, she and her promoters at Uprising Promotion got in touch with David Berlin, who's the executive director for the New York State Boxing Commission. And he was like, yeah, let's get it done. Let's make some history. So the rules were changed. And now if women choose, if both parties choose to have a 3-minute round fight, they can do so.
That's great. I think that's significant in the sport for women's boxing because, I really, you and I talked about this in the past. There's really no reason. When the WBC gave all their BS reasons why they didn't want to do it, we both agreed that was BS, so this is, I think this is huge.
It absolutely is. But look, if you look at MMA, there you have Ronda Rousey fighting 5-minute rounds. It's not like she's expiring.
Right.
It's the same for men and women. So what's the difference? And every woman I know, every female professional boxer trains for 3 minutes when they are sparring, getting ready in their camps, getting ready for their professional competitive bouts. They are training on 3-minute clocks. They're not training on 2-minute clocks. So what they have to do is make adjustments in order to fight 2 minutes. I was talking to some local fighters about this when I heard about it. I have a piece of it about this issue on my blog on girlboxing.org. And Alicia Ashley, who is as great a competitor as you can imagine in the sport of women's boxing, and she just said, it was terribly frustrating, and that basically she had to make adjustments to her fight plan every time she walked into the ring because she knew that she had only 2 minutes to go wall to wall, that it kind of forces a really fast pace when boxers may not necessarily want to do that as part of their game plan. Makes it hard for judges to score when people are just going flat out. And as Serena has pointed out in my interview with her, she says, look, I like to have that extra minute to be able to think through what my fight plan is going to be. How am I going to break down my opponent? And to have to do it in 2 minutes, let's face it, that's how amateurs fight.
Right.
Real professional boxing is fought in 3 rounds.
I love it, and I think it's great, and I'm glad it's happening in New York. And I'm glad David Berlin, this is a guy, I've known him personally. He's a guy that you have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, but you know what? It's for our best interest. It really is. So good stuff. That's
I
great
think
news.
so, and certainly, you and I have talked about Layla McCarter. She's just a brilliant professional in the sport, has an amazing record and an amazing ability to box professionally. She's, been fighting 3-minute rounds on and off since 2007, very quietly, basically making a deal with the Nevada Boxing Commission to allow her on occasion, on very specific fights, to have 3-minute rounds. And not only that, also allowed competition up to 12 rounds for a championship bout. But that's been few and far between. And then you look at how she's had to fight in between, and it's, maybe 8 rounds for 2 minutes. It just makes no sense. So I think this is a brilliant move. I think the model of what MMA has been doing and the women's side of the sport shows how competitive women are at longer distances, longer time frames. And I think, with the success of fight with Paula Ortiz, hopefully the momentum will start to swing, and other states will take a look at this. I mean, there was one other fight out in California in 2013. Sonia Lamonicus and Martha Salazar had a heavyweight bout that was fought 3-minute rounds for 6 rounds. For Sonia, it was a bit of a shock because she came in thinking it was going to be 2 minutes, so it did kind of throw her off her game. But the fact that this is now the 3rd state that seems to be allowing this is really brilliant, and I think portends some very good things in the sport.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad to hear. That's great news. Hey, listen, if we get cut off, I'm in the middle of a severe thunderstorm. I just have a feeling my studio's going to lose power. But do you have any other news for me?
Well, let's see. We've got a bunch of some interesting fights that have happened and some new fights coming up. Callie Reese, who's a fighter out of I think out of Massachusetts, Rhode Island. She has a record of 7-3-1. She had a fight with Christina Hammond for WBO World Female Middleweight title fight. I guess May 2nd. Well, she certainly shocked Christina Hammer with some amazing shots. She lost some points. It was 98-91 across the board. But I have to say, this is a woman in Callie Reese, who does not shy away from tough fights, and is someone to watch as an American fighter who is really trying to be very competitive and is not trying to walk through fights with easy opponents. She's taking on anyone she can. Her last big fight was against Michaela Lauren in Spain. She lost that also, but very close. That was in July of 2014, and then in November she fought Teresa Perozzi, and in Bermuda won that fight for the vacant IBA female middleweight title fight. But this is someone to really watch as a real contender, and someone who is not afraid to work hard. In terms of upcoming fights, Heather Hardy is going to be back at Barclays. Her last fight, as you recall, had a stoppage due to a headbutt, and rather than have some kind of rematch with what I think you and I had discussed was a very uneven fight, she's actually going to be fighting Noemi Bosque. So this should be an interesting battle because they're both have perfect records coming into it. They're both sort of associated as a bit of a Golden Girls, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
You know what, Melissa. We've talked about these two fighters, and they're very similar. Okay, but if I'm part of the management team on either side, this is a fight that's happening too soon. This is a fight that should be taking place. Like, they could be building up both of these fighters exactly how they're doing it. This is how they would do it in men's division. They would build them up, and they would keep them parallel and try to make some serious money, because as it is now, they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's early. It's certainly early, and the thing about it is that the fight is going to be shown on Spike TV. Well, the head of the card will be. And for there, it will be video streamed live. So not exactly television, but it's not exactly not. So that's kind of interesting as a sort of a sidebar, a good fight to have or not. The fact that it actually will be streamed live on video is not exactly a full step into television, mainline television, but at least gives fans an opportunity to watch it on their computers without having to pay a fortune for it and get some kind of bad reception, or just to watch it on YouTube later. So that's something that's interesting to watch. And Sonia Lamonicus is going to be fighting Gwendolyn O'Neill for a heavyweight title fight down in St. Martin on the 30th, I believe, of May. So that should be interesting. O'Neill has been out of the fight game for quite a while, so we'll see whether there's any ring rust. The fight that Sonya needs to have is with Martha Salazar, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, listen,
Salazar, even at her age, is a pretty tough customer.
We're getting some breaks in the line here, Melissa. So I'm going to cut it a little short. I appreciate you giving
no
us,
problem.
Yeah, because all of a sudden it just looked like when we went on air, it got real dark. Now we got the lightning coming and stuff, and you were going in and out there for a little bit. So rather than just lose everything, I'd rather do it on our terms. So
sure,
hey,
no problem.
Great news to hear, man, on the 3-minute thing. Keep me posted on that, will you? Because I think
I will,
that's
absolutely. I'm planning on attending the fight, and I'll give you a bit of a report on it when we talk next time.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Melissa.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's Malissa Smith. Make sure you pick up a copy of her book, History of Women's Boxing. You can get to it very easily by visiting our website, www.billycboxing.com, and clicking on the book club section. And it's right there. It will give you a direct link. And if you buy the book, I'm sure I could arrange for Melissa to autograph it for you. So make sure.